prime, Derrick Rose wasn't just another NBA player. He was the most athletic point guard we've ever seen. What made him so special? He was too strong for most point guards, with a mind-blowing first step that left defenders in the dust. D-Rose was able to explode and fly in the air like he had springs in his legs, bending the laws of physics night after night. For 3.5 incredible years, he was the most electrifying player in the NBA, serving up some of the most disrespectful dunks we've ever witnessed. He was unstoppable, a force of nature draped in a Bulls jersey, giving Chicago a hope they hadn't felt since the Jordan era. Then, in the first game of the 2012 playoffs, everything changed. Rose drove to the basket, landed awkwardly, and crumpled to the floor of the United Center. His face twisted in agony, clutching his knee. The silence in the arena was deafening. In that devastating moment, Derrick Rose, as we knew him, was over. Not officially over, as he courageously played for 12 more years, giving us legendary moments like the playoff game winner against Cleveland or the incredible 50 points he scored for the Timberwolves. But the D-Rose who defied gravity, the MVP, the chosen one, he ceased to exist that fateful night in 2012. His story remains one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history, because if Derrick Rose had remained healthy, he probably would have been one of the top 5 point guards of all time. What do you think of this start? Did it grab you? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're ready for more deep dives into the greatest stories in sports. Derrick Rose's story didn't start under the bright lights of the NBA. It began in the rough and tumble south side of Chicago. Born and raised in one of the most dangerous and crime-infested places on the planet, Rose had a tough childhood. He grew up in a 5-bedroom house with a single mom and 3 older brothers, but sometimes up to 13 people would live there at once. His 2 older brothers, like many other young kids in his neighborhood, were drug dealers. But Derrick wanted a different life. His drug of choice was basketball, and he spent most of his time playing ball at Murray Park, also grimly known as Murder Park due to the number of killings that had happened there. Even though he was surrounded by guns and narcotics, Derrick was fiercely protected. The neighborhood gangs never gave him trouble, partly because they were genuinely scared of his mother, Brenda, who protected Derrick like an angry wolf would protect her cub, and partly because he was a local celebrity from an early age. Everyone knew Rose was special and had a real chance to make it out of the hood. Rose himself once said, "I was the best kid in my neighborhood at a young age. My whole life, I was always the one everyone was talking about. I've never really wanted the attention, but it has always been there." As a high school junior, Rose led his Simeon Career Academy to a state title with a buzzer-beating jumper in the finals. In his senior season, Simeon won the title again, with Rose averaging a ridiculous 25 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds, and 3.5 steals. He finished his high school career with an astounding record of 120 wins and just 12 losses. He was wanted by several major college programs, but he chose the University of Memphis because of Coach Calipari and his belief that they would prepare him best for the NBA, which was the only thing on his mind since he was 12. With Rose on the team, the Memphis Tigers started the season with 26 consecutive wins, finishing the regular season with a 33-1 record and as the #1 ranked team in the country. Rose led the Tigers to the Final Four, where he dominated UCLA with 25 points and 9 rebounds, leading Memphis to an 85-67 win. In a national championship game, Rose scored 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists, but Memphis lost in overtime. Despite missing out on the championship, Rose's talent and winning pedigree were undeniable, having won 92% of his games in high school and college. However, a controversy over Rose's SAT test, which he probably didn't take at all, with someone else taking it for him, led to the entire Memphis '08 season being deleted from the NCAA record books. Still, despite the controversy, all the NBA teams loved Rose's game and his potential. Before the 2008 draft, there was a huge debate. Who was the better prospect, Rose or Michael Beasley? But the Bulls believed in their hometown point guard, selecting him with the first overall pick. Derrick Rose became just the 5th point guard in history to be selected first overall. And after the first month of the season, it was clear Chicago made the right choice. What do you think about Rose's journey from the South Side to the NBA's top pick? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into Derrick Rose's career, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapters. The pressure of being the first overall pick meant nothing to Rose. He burst out of the gate fearless and ready to dominate. No point guard in the league could match his speed. When given an inch of space, Derrick would explode to the cup for a thunderous dunk. And even if the lane was closed, Rose still found a way to finish through contact with an unreal ability to contort his body in midair, moving past, over, and sometimes under defenders. This was a skill cultivated on the concrete playgrounds of Murray Park, where there were no referees and guys try to take his head off to stop him from scoring. Rose himself said, "When we used to play in the park, there are no fouls. That's why I shoot the crazy shots I do, because I knew I was going to get fouled, but I still got to make the shot." Averaging 16.8 points, 6.3 assists, and 3.9 rebounds, Rose propelled a mediocre Bulls team to the NBA playoffs, almost unanimously winning the Rookie of the Year award. In the opening round of the playoffs against the Boston Celtics and their Big Three, Rose immediately proved he wasn't afraid. In Game 1, he scored 36 points, tying Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most points for a rookie in their playoff debut. Although the Celtics were the best team in the NBA and would go on to win the title that year, Rose and the Bulls pushed them to 7 games in arguably the most electrifying series of the playoffs. Rose improved his numbers from the regular season, averaging 26 points and 6 assists on 49% shooting. But it wasn't about the numbers with Derrick. What Rose showed as a rookie was resilience and fearlessness with each drive to the basket, something ingrained in his character and reminiscent of the best days of Allen Iverson. You could foul him hard and put his butt on the floor 100 times, but he would get up 101 times, dust himself off, and keep attacking. This kind of bravery and mental fortitude propelled him into superstardom. When the 2010 season started, Rose took the reins and became the clear leader of the Bulls, giving Chicago a taste of excellence and hope they hadn't felt since Michael Jordan. Even though he was an introvert who didn't speak much, Rose spoke through his actions, leading by example. His fighting, never-back-down spirit permeated through the entire team. Rose made his first All-Star team with averages of 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists per game, leading the Bulls to the playoffs again. However, in the first round, LeBron's Cavs proved too strong, winning the series in 5 games. Still, Rose shined once again, proving he was one of those players who only got better in the playoffs, averaging 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists per game. For the 2011 season, the Bulls fired Vinny Del Negro and appointed Tom Thibodeau as head coach. Thibodeau's hard-nosed defensive style went hand-in-hand with the mentality of the Bulls' core players in Rose, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng. Chicago's defense improved from 11th in the NBA to number 1, and their offense went from 27th to 11th, with the second-best net rating in the league. On a defensive-minded team, Derrick Rose carried the offense on his back with 25 points and 7.7 assists per game, fully establishing himself as the most entertaining player in the league. He was splitting double teams like they weren't even there, jumping over defenders like they were middle schoolers. He was always in attack mode, colliding into the heart of the defense like a human version of a warhammer. Rose was the perfect representative of his era, an isolation scorer who creates for others by creating advantages one-on-one, and a guy who can win any game by himself. He had his flaws, and the lack of a dependable jump shot was his primary one, represented by 44% shooting. But still, with his relentless drives to the basket, Rose was bending defenses and creating so much pressure, becoming only the 3rd player since the 1973 NBA season to record 2,000 points and 600 assists in a single season. Rose led the Bulls to 62 wins in the regular season, their most since 1998, securing the best record in the NBA. Derrick Rose received 113 out of 120 first-place votes for MVP, and at 22 years and 6 months old, he became the youngest MVP in NBA history. When the playoffs came around, Rose's numbers rose once again. He averaged 27 points and 7 assists in the first round against the Pacers, and in the second round against the Hawks, he was even better with 30 points and 10 assists on average. Then the Eastern Conference Finals offered a long-awaited clash between the two best teams in the East, the Bulls and the Miami Heat, who had their newly assembled Big Three, led by the biggest villain in the NBA at the time, LeBron James. Despite the Bulls having the best record in the league, Miami was favored in the series. But Rose and the Bulls stomped them in Game 1, winning by 21 points, fueled by 28 and 6 from Derrick Rose. However, for the rest of the series, Miami's coach Erik Spoelstra made the smart adjustment of having LeBron James guard Rose in the fourth quarter, as he was the only player strong and fast enough to slow down the MVP. Chicago averaged just 14 points in the fourth quarter of the next 4 games, and Miami won each one as the rest of the Bulls struggled to score without the usual offensive output from Rose. Derrick still averaged 23 points and 6 assists in the series, but he shot just 35% from the field. And even though the games were closer than a 4-1 score would suggest, Miami deservedly won the series and advanced to the NBA Finals. The next NBA season was put on hold due to a lockout, with the season finally kicking off on Christmas Day. The Bulls opened the year in the Staples Center against Kobe and the Lakers. With the score 87-86 in the Lakers' favor and 15 seconds to go, the Bulls secured the final possession, and everybody knew who was getting the ball. Rose hit a game-winning shot with 4.8 seconds left. If you watched that game in real time, you had a sense of security that D. Rose would make the right play and win the game for Chicago. That was the aura of Derrick Rose at the time, as he was the superstar Chicago had been missing for over a decade. And even though nobody was saying that he was on Jordan's level, his play and mentality made Chicago hopeful, believing he was the chosen one, a superstar from the city that would carry them to their next championship. However, Rose's 2012 season was marked by minor injuries, as he played in only 60% of games, with his numbers decreasing across the board. But despite Rose missing nearly half the season, Chicago still secured the #1 seed in the East, and everybody was ready for another clash between the Bulls and the Heat. But that never happened. In Game 1 of the Bulls' first-round matchup with the Sixers, they were up by double digits with a minute and a half remaining. But Coach Thibodeau was notorious for playing his starters 40-plus minutes per game, so Rose was still in the game even though the win was secured. Then, as he was making another drive to the basket, Rose landed awkwardly and crumpled to the floor, holding his left knee. His ACL was gone, and so was his career as we knew it. What was your favorite D. Rose moment during his MVP run? Drop it in the comments below. And if you're feeling the electricity of Prime Rose, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into NBA legends. Derrick Rose had a torn ACL. He missed the entire 2013 NBA season, and when he returned in 2014, he wasn't the same Derrick Rose. He played gingerly, not fully trusting his surgically repaired knee, without the same burst of speed and athleticism that used to leave defenders in the dust. And then just 10 games later, another disaster. The meniscus in his other knee gave out, and one more season went down the drain. After 2 seasons of suffering and rehabilitation, Derrick finally returned for the 2014-2015 season, but he was a shadow of his former self, averaging 16 points on a horrible 35% shooting. Slowly but surely, Rose became synonymous with knee injuries instead of high-flying dunks. But there was hope on the horizon. This time, he was ruled out for only 6 weeks and was set to return before the playoffs. On April 18th, 2015, Rose played his first playoff game since that ill-fated Game 1 of the 2012 playoffs, scoring 23 points and 7 assists on 9 of 16 shooting. In Game 3 against the Bucks, Derrick had another vintage performance, finishing with 34 points and 8 assists in a tight 113-106 overtime win. The Bulls defeated Milwaukee in 6 games, with 19 points and 6 assists per game from Rose, who was like a wounded tiger, clearly not a 100%, but still dangerous and ready for the kill if he got close enough to his prey. And that's exactly what he did in Game 3 of the second round against LeBron and the Cavs. With the game tied at 96 and 3 seconds left, Derrick was given the opportunity to take the final shot, once again displaying his killer instinct. He hit it. Rose led the Bulls to victory with 30 points and 7 assists, and in Game 4, he was even better, finishing with 31 points. But his great game was spoiled by another game-winning buzzer beater from LeBron James. King James proved to be too much for the Bulls to handle, leading the Cavs to a 4-2 series victory. But Rose didn't disappoint, averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists across 6 games. The story continued throughout the 2016 season. Rose was finally healthy, appearing in 66 games, and he had flashes of brilliance, like his fourth-quarter takeover against the Thunder or 30 points against the Knicks in the Garden. However, his great games were too far apart, and they didn't happen night after night like they used to. It was starting to get painfully obvious that the Derrick Rose of old wasn't going to show up. The former MVP was now 27 years old and was supposed to be in his prime, but instead he only averaged 16 points and 5 assists on 43% shooting, far from superstar level. Even though they had quality players like Jimmy Butler, Pau Gasol, and Nikola Mirotic, the Bulls finished the season with a 42-40 record, which wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. And then, a shock. The Bulls management decided to trade their hometown hero to New York, giving up on the dream of Rose leading them to the promised land. In hindsight, it was a logical move to trade the most expensive player on the roster who wasn't performing like he used to. But at that moment, the trade sent shockwaves throughout the NBA, and it was another reminder that Rose wasn't the same player anymore. However, with the Knicks, Rose had a revitalizing season. It wasn't the old, above-the-rim Derrick Rose, but he wasn't trying to be that anymore. Instead of dunks, he used what he had left, and that was speed and craftiness around the basket. Even though he wasn't jumping over defenders, he was still quick enough to go around them and create shots with his handle. Rose played 64 games for the Knicks in the 2017 season, averaging 18 points and 4.5 assists on a very respectable 47% shooting. Just when his career started to have an upward trajectory, another injury brought him down. It was another meniscus tear and a fourth knee surgery in a span of 6 years. To make matters worse, it was a contract year for Rose, so rather than getting a solid new deal, he was forced to sign a minimum contract with the Cavaliers. But as always, he got injured again after just 16 games with Cleveland, causing him to step away from the team and seriously ponder retirement. "I'm not trying to be a distraction to the team or anything like that," he said. "I'm here to be a professional about any situation I get put into and to own up to it and be a man about it." Reports surfaced that Rose was unsure about his future in the NBA. And yet, despite all the bad luck, pain, and suffering, Rose was a fighter. He was still that kid from Murray Park who became a #1 pick and the MVP. After getting traded by the Cavs and waived by the Jazz, DeRozan signed with the Timberwolves, where he reunited with Coach Thibodeau and truly resurrected his career. In the 8th game of the 2019 season, just 6 months after he considered retiring, Rose had arguably the greatest game of his career against the Jazz, erupting for a career-high 50 points on 19, for 31 shooting with 6 assists, and securing the victory with a block on Utah's final shot as time expired. Even without the vertical athleticism, Rose reminded the world what could have been. After the game, he gave one of the most emotional interviews in NBA history, tearing up as he spoke about his journey. Thibodeau later said that Rose had the character, the humility, and the courage. He's probably, maybe, one of the most mentally tough people that I've ever come across. What did you think of Derrick Rose's incredible 50-point game? Did it give you chills like it did me? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're hooked on this story of resilience, make sure to like this video and subscribe for the final chapter. In the 2019 season, Rose shot 48% from the field and a career-high 37% from 3, averaging 18 points off the bench and receiving strong consideration for the 6th Man of the Year award. Then, in 2020, Rose signed with the Pistons, where he once again had a career year in terms of efficiency, averaging 18 points and 5.6 assists. The next season, he got traded to New York for his second stint with the Knicks, and he was again excellent in his role, finishing third in the voting for Sixth Man of the Year. For the next 3 seasons, he remained an efficient role player and mentor for younger guys, ultimately retiring after the 2024 season with the Grizzlies at the age of 35. Derrick Rose, had he not gotten injured, would have been one of the greatest guards we have ever seen in the history of basketball, one analyst remarked. And he's a great, great guy, one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. Rose will forever remain one of the biggest what-if stories in NBA history, and probably the biggest in this millennium. Everyone who watched him during his short, 4-year peak knows how much basketball lost with his injury. Because in Chicago and a lot of other places, Rose was larger than life. He did things in midair that broke the physical laws of accepted human behavior. Watching him play in real life didn't serve justice to his extraordinary speed and athleticism, because if you blinked, you could miss it. Rose's brilliance was such that you needed slow motion to fully grasp what the hell even happened. The same way you need to slow the frame down to comprehend how a snake bites its prey or a hummingbird flaps its wings. D-Rose was ready to become a legend, but his story was ultimately written with different letters. Every player who won the MVP ended up in the Hall of Fame. And among the 36 players to win the MVP, only Bill Walton has fewer All-Star appearances than Rose. But unlike Walton, who has 2 NBA rings, Rose never enjoyed deep playoff success, as he only won 3 playoff series in his career. And still, despite the shortness of his prime, we have no doubt that he'll eventually get enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Rose squeezed every bit of juice out of his talent, and he excelled as a superstar and later as a role player, always improving his game in the playoffs, delivering plenty of clutch shots, and some of the most memorable highlights in NBA history. What's your ultimate what-if for Derrick Rose's career? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you've been on this incredible journey with us, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from the world of sports. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.